Hello and welcome to another episode of Forgotten Places. I wanted to talk about whether if the Chargers will stay in LA or not. Now, as we've seen, they've been there for a few years now, and the fans have not responded to their presence there. The only reason that they're there is because of the desires of one man, which is Dean Spanos. And he was willing to turn down all this money from the NFL and was willing to spend $650 million of his own money, I believe, just for the right to move to LA. Now, we've seen after a few years that this is not working. They couldn't fill a soccer stadium that had like 25,000 people in it, and it was filled with away fans when they actually did fill it. So then comes the new stadium, right? Let's hope, new stadium, we'll get some fans. Wrong. The away fans are still showing up, and they're showing up in droves. Now you might ask, well, what's the difference? Money's green, right? It doesn't matter if there's a bunch of Chiefs fans or Browns fans or fans of whoever might be playing there. What difference does it make if there are all away fans? Well, it does matter quite a bit. First of all, they had trouble selling PSLs and season tickets for the team, which is a big revenue draw of a given stadium. And second of all, the shine of a new stadium and the novelty of it, it will wear off after a few years. I'm not surprised that they're filling the stadium right now because it's a $5 billion paradise that they built. And everybody wants to see it, everybody wants to go to it. But what you're probably going to see over time is that the away crowds will probably die down a bit because frankly there aren't 70,000 fans of each given team to fill the stadium every week. And over time, once it's a few years old, they're not just going to be flying across the country to go there because it won't be new anymore, and the people that really wanted to see it will have seen it. So where does that leave things? Well, the team signed a 20-year lease, I believe, to play in there. So technically, legally, they're obligated to play there for 20 years. And while that is true, I don't see them playing there for 20 years. I think it's an embarrassment to the league, and it's an embarrassment to the owners, and I think it just looks really bad to any given fan to see that. It's sad, and the players notice it. Everybody notices it. They just played a game there against Pittsburgh, and the terrible towels were flying everywhere, just like they were when they played in the soccer stadium a few years back. So the question comes, will they stay in LA? Well, as long as the money keeps flowing, they might not care whether it's full of away fans or not. I mean, the NFL makes most of their money off TV now anyway, but I still think that the league does not like that look. And I definitely believe that they would find a way to break that 20-year lease if they have to in a few years when they realize that the team isn't catching on there. And honestly, I don't think LA would really care if they did break the lease or try to keep them from breaking the lease because there's really no interest there. They have the Rams, and they seem to get reasonable interest in the Rams there because they used to play there. But the Chargers, it's just nobody seems to care. So here's the problem. LA had two teams, and then they had no teams, and then they immediately had two teams again. Now, it worked for the one because they used to play there for quite a while, and there was a lot of old fans that were still fans. Now, if they wanted to move the Raiders to LA, then it might have worked because there's a lot of Raider fans in LA. But because you took a team that was centered in San Diego and moved it to LA, there were no homegrown fans there unless you were just rooting for the Chargers because they were Southern California's team. But Spanos pissed off San Diego so much that the people in San Diego don't want to go to LA and support the LA team. Now, they might watch it on TV, but they're not like going out in droves to go root for the Chargers in LA. You also had 20 years of miscellaneous fans going and rooting for other teams, most likely, thus why you see so many of them at the Charger games. So what happens here? Will the Chargers really stay in LA? I don't think they're staying for that 20-year lease, personally. I think it'll just get to a point where it's so bad and it's such a bad look that they just decide that they'll move the team somewhere else or they'll force Spanos to sell or move the team somewhere else because it's clearly not working there, and it's kind of a shame because they actually have talent and they're not a terrible team. But, I mean, just imagine if they were terrible, then it would probably be even worse. I think the NFL and Spanos are just going to have to admit that it was a stupid move and that LA just doesn't really need two teams. It would have made way more sense just to have a test team there for a few years, but then they were afraid all the fans would go root for that team. But like I've said in other videos, the fans don't just appear and just decide to root for your team just because they move there. So we'll see what happens, but for now and for the foreseeable future, you're probably going to see a lot of away fans at the games, and then probably eventually as the stadium ages, you'll probably see a lot of empty seats. So let me know what you think. Do you think the Chargers are actually going to stay in LA, or do you think they'll move somewhere else? Let me know, and as always, thank you for watching.